Good evening, everyone. I want us to quickly do a revisit of the GBPJPY, and I am of the opinion that we might be on a uptrend continuation going into the new week. The first thing first I observed when I scaled up to the 1 week to the weekly time frame was that I identified a bullish trend line right on this chart. And if you allow me to give you a visual representation of what that is, with my line chart on, I had something like this going on at this point. So this is what I have here on the weekly time frame. As you can see, price has continued to respect that trend line since March 2020. So this trend line has been holding for over 2 years now, as price continue to respect this line and continue to find higher highs and higher lows since for over 2 years now, and we have found ourselves right at this area. So at this point in time, are we also going to go further up in the sense that price will probably go continue to the upside, or are we going to be seeing a breakdown of this trend line in the new week? So scaling down to the daily time frame to have more clarity into what's happening right now. So from a technical perspective, this is what I see at this point in time. The first thing I noticed when I observed what has been happening in the last 1 year is that we have a demand structure that has been holding price supported since March 2021. As we can see, this level has been holding price supported for quite a while now. So with the demand structure around this area, giving more importance to the tendency of the buyers at this juncture in the market, we saw price climb up, do a quick rejection of that same area before we saw that strong bullish impulsive move that's that took price right into 168.500 area. And since then we saw something that looks more like a retracement phase of that impulse leg. So allow me to scale to zoom into what has been happening in the last 2 months, 2 to 3 months on this time frame, as because from my opinion, this will now determine how we are going to trade these going forward. The first thing observed at this point, if you bring my line chart here, bring out my line chart here, we saw this trend line was broken. You can see this bearish trend line. If you want, let me give this a dotted and let me make it red. So we have something like this. This impulse leg that we saw here that began in the month of March broke out of that trend line significantly at this point. That's around mid-March. And then what we saw that followed that impulse leg was something that looks more like a retracement phase that brought price back into that trend line in the form of a retest after we saw that impulsive move again one more time during the course of last week trading session. So zooming into what is happening at this point, I am left with no choice other than to find a demand zone that we can work with going forward. If we look at what structure has been, we saw that we had a retest of this area. After the breakout of structure, we saw a retest into the structure where I'm thinking that price will be going further up from this area. And why is that so? If we zoom in to what is happening, we saw that since the breakdown, since the retracement phase tested that trend line, that bearish trend line, we saw price move up with three bullish engulfing candle before price came back down, and we saw another bullish candle from this point, which gave us a higher low, which is more of a signal that the bullish, the bulls are actually coming into the market at this point. So in that regard, I want to identify a demand zone right around this area, which has been a supply level in the past. Look at what has happened since October last year. We saw that it has this area around 158 area has been a supply zone. You can see, hold on. So allow me to give this a label. So we can label this a supply zone. And we saw that this level has been respected for quite some time. As we can see, price, we were caught up in a consolidation phase and we saw the breakout of that structure. So I'm of the opinion that the previous supply level is probably going to be our new demand zone, as the breakout of that structure has laid more emphasis into the strength of the bulls at this point. So if you allow me to give this, bringing out my line chart at this point, then we'll be having something like this to be our new demand zone. So we label it demand zone right here. So going forward into the new week, this area will serve as a demand zone that will guide our action going forward. Now, before I move into a lower time frame, it is pertinent as I mentioned here that a breakdown of this demand zone will definitely negate any possibility of a buy momentum, as if this leads into the breakdown of that bullish trend line we identified on the weekly time frame. So now, with no much further ado, let's scale down to a 4 hours time frame to see what is happening at this point. So on the 4 hours time frame, if we notice closely, since mid-April, we saw that price has been finding lower low and lower highs, which allow us to have a visual representation of a bearish trend line at this point. So we have something like this. Sorry. And then we have a major one right above this level. We have a major, that's a major one. So the major one will be a line where, okay, and we have a temporary one right below it. So with the array of bearish trend line, the first thing first we notice is that price has been respecting both this line since mid-April, as we can see, until we saw that breakout of structure of that line and the retest into that area, which also shares a confluence with that demand zone. And then we saw price moving upward from this area with a signal that supports a bullish momentum at this point in time. So let's zoom into what has been happening since during the course of last week's trading session. Bringing out my line chart at this point, I can identify a bullish trend line evolving at this point. As we can see, price has found a higher low. Let's make this green. And this is what we have here. So we saw this impulsive move during the course of last week's trading session, and price retraced back into what I would call my golden zone area, which also shares a confluence with the bullish trend line. Then we saw a double bottom structure afterwards, and we saw a breakout of structure, a retest into structure, and which also shares a confluence with the retest of the bearish trend line. And we continue to see a consolidation phase in the later part of last week's trading session. So now that we have this structure at this point, then we want to label this our double bottom structure, which is a very strong reversal pattern at this point. And we have something like this. This is what I have here now. We have double top, double bottom structure, double bottom structure. Then we need to find a key level at this point to guide our actions going forward. So bringing out our line chart here. So what this simply means, our key level at this point will also be our neckline, the neckline of the what's it called? The uh, I'm looking at this area here, 158. I think this is more of it here. So we have it at around 159.9, which is approximated as 160 thereabouts as our key level. So our key level is always gold, and then we have it at around. So let me just use 160 approximately. Key level at 160 area. Let's make this gold, and let's paste it on the top, and put it on the left hand side. So with the key level sitting at 160 area, which also shares, you can see what happened in the past on this one. It was once been a support level here before it was broken around here, and then it was broken out around here again. There was some multiple rejection around this area, after which we are looking for a breakout of that area as a signal, a retest into structure. We might probably share a confluence with the bullish trend line. They will be looking for a trend continuation to the upside on this one. So what this simply means at this point is that we want to be entering this trade after all confirmations right above that key level at around this area, at above 160 area. Then we want to be looking for a take profit target. Sorry, we have our stop loss right below the neckline. Then we have a take profit target at least. If you don't mind, if we look at this on a long-term perspective, this is an impulse leg here. This is an impulse leg here. And if we project this impulse leg into the future, we will be having something like this. And then using our Fibonacci extension tool to have a precise figure, we will be having something like this on a long term with a take profit target at around 173.500. So mind you, this is a long-term perspective on this one, but we won't be doing that as we want to be looking for a short-term opportunity, at least for next week that we want to enter tomorrow. So what I'll be saying is this: we will scale down to no, sorry, before we scale down, we'll be looking at this leg, which is our impulse leg here. We run our retracement tool down into this area, then we look for our golden zone area between 50% retracement and 78.6% retracement for our take profit target at this point. So if we have that, we have something like this. So we have a take profit target within this area. So let's give it a yellow, which is more transparent. And then we have our take profit target within this area. Let's just put it at 61.8% retracement, which is around 163.5, and that's around 340 pips take profit target. And let's scale down to a much lower time frame in the form of a 1 hour time frame to look for structures that would guide our stop loss at this point. So with an entry point around this area, we want to be looking for our stop loss right below previous structure around this area to guide our actions going forward. So to do a quick recap on what I'm talking about at this point, I said we want to be looking for a signal in the form of a breakout of structure, a retest into structure, then we look for structures that confirm a trend continuation to the upside. This structure as well might also share a confluence with that, with this bullish trend line here at this point. So this is my expectation here on the GBPJPY. Please note that regular updates will be shared in the comment section of my TradingView account for reference purposes. Thank you for watching and do have a wonderful night rest. Bye.